You know, they're not harmful. You know, it's kind of part of the charm of the place. And she's like, well, they're outside waiting. Do you want me to tell them? And she's like, sure, go ahead. And she's like, it was too busy. She wanted to go out with her just to see. But she said it was too busy that day. And she said within a week, like, they had been holding it in. Because they were like, woo! We're like, partying. The next week, like a week later, they, like, when you run a report, they have, like, older kinds of cash registers. And when you run a report, like, you have to hit a bunch of buttons, and then the receipt tape spits out reports for the whole day.
And plus, you have to turn the key to a certain direction.
Right, and you have to, just like, there's 3 different buttons you have to hit. It kept doing that. Mm-hmm. Like, just randomly.
In the middle of sale. She's ringing things up. She's ringing up stuff, and she couldn't anymore because the key was turned. Like, how did that happen?
No, she said it kept turning off. Like, she'd be ringing a sale, and then the register would be turned off. Like, right. Halfway through the sale, like, the key had been turned, and then the scale kept flashing like it had been turned off and turned back on. It's like, you have to wait for this to be... That's kind of mean there. That's mean-spirited. Right? It's just like, can you wait till we're, like, not in the...
not so busy.
In a rush? Right. And the drawer kept, like, the cash register just kept opening.
Popping open.
I said, that sounds like something a kid would do.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's like, he probably was like, what is this thing? And was, like, doing stuff to...
Yeah. He just had been
Roger
bored.
was like, I'm bored. I gotta try this stuff out.
She said it's never really been scary, you know, there. It's just been, like, kind of harmless fun.
And well, the cool thing is, like, several people have said things to her. People just randomly will say, oh, and they'll describe things, and different people who don't know each other are telling you they're seeing things that are the same. Like, description of people and what they're wearing.
And they have, like, when you go in there, they have pictures on the wall from... Like, they have pictures of Homer.
Yeah, Homer's
in there.
I took a picture of that.
She said that Forrest said that he had seen someone in the window of the mill.
Yeah.
And who was it? Well, I don't know. And she brought him in and showed him a picture. Was it this guy? Yeah, it was him. It was Homer. So that's kind of why they've always assumed it's Homer in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that it is. Because, I mean, especially he built a press. Like, he put his...
Oh, and she said that you can hear the press running sometimes.
Right.
And it's not pressing time and no one's downstairs.
Yeah, and she said that there's been, because they've gutted the old building and there's no floor for the attic, so it's all open when you go in there. You can see the old beams. It's really cool, because those beams are from they're like original.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, she said there's weird cuts in them, like they're from a ship or something, and to come to find out that John Burr was a pirate.
I know.
Cool.
That makes total sense.
Total sense.
She said that she did, she's heard that a lot of places they would build buildings out of the ship that brought the product
because of the tax on the wood was so high that building a ship was cheaper, and then disassembling it.
Right.
To put into your thing.
Right. So she said it might have been from William Burr, or not William Burr.
John
Burr. Aaron Burr is the other one. He's shot.
Yeah.
I'm like,
he killed Hamilton, Margaret.
He did. I'm like, he's the guy that shot, the guy.
A Burr.
Aaron Burr. But she said, like, now that there's no place for Homer
to
walk and let people know he's there, you'll hear the press move.
Yeah.
He's moving the press because there's no place for him.
And there's no one down there.
Yeah, and you'll hear, and I'm sure that press weighs a ton. Like, a literal ton. So it can't just move by itself.
Right.
And it would probably take more than one person to move it. So, yeah, I give it credence. Colleen and I, when we were there walking through the building, just taking some pictures,
well, she said, Margaret asked her, can we go into the old building and look around? And she's like, oh yeah, I trust you, Margaret, go ahead. So we walked in, and it was really cool because everything was gutted and you could see the old wooden beams, which was really neat. And Margaret was like, oh, this is where...
this is the kitchen was here.
Yeah,
this is the register.
I'm like, oh yeah, the register was on this side. And we were like looking around, and there was no one else in there with us. And when we walked in, there were all these boxes stacked up in this little hallway area. And they were stacked up good, and there was some stuff in them, and like they weren't empty boxes.
They were empty.
Were they empty?
It was like when the cider comes in 6 gallons.
Oh, it was a gallon.
It was the old, because you reuse the boxes and you fold the flaps in, and then you put one inside the other and you stack them like that. So they're kind of you're almost making they're kind of like stable, if that makes sense. So you can stack them and they don't necessarily
stack
tip
them
over.
So they kind of hook into each other.
Right.
Sort of. Yeah,
so like one's inside the next one and then the other one. So that way it's like not just empty boxes stacked on top of each other. You can stack like twice as many if you do it. And
when we came in, we had shut the one door and walked in, but we had been in there for like a good 3 minutes. So it wasn't anything to do with the door being open or shut because the door was shut the whole time. And then we were talking to each other about something, or you're saying this is where the stairs were or something.
Yeah.
Where you go up to see Homer, where Homer hung out, and all of a sudden, I heard stuff fall over. And we both just got quiet, and we looked out the door. Then we looked at each other, and like the boxes all fell over.
All of them.
All of them. Just right on the ground. And
if it had been somebody that worked there, they would have picked them up.
And there was no one in there.
There was no one in there.
We were in there alone.
Right.
And we were like, hi, Homer.
So, yeah, it was kind of cool.
And Margaret was like, we have to go tell Cindy. So we did. And she goes, did you thank him for saying hello? I'm like, yes. That was so exciting, though. We were like, oh, my God. Like, we're here.
He blessed us with the podcast.
And I was like, it was cool because he was like, oh, you're here just to hear about me. I'll make my appearance. Like,
yeah.
He was excited about it.
Yeah. He's like, oh, people are talking about me.
I saw some story, like, looking up the history of the building and stuff. Cindy has done, interviews before, and then, there was a local news station did like a little segment on haunted places. Mm-hmm. So I got some stuff from that too, of some things that happened. There was a customer and she wanted to get a picture of the cider. It's just it has so much character, and with the 30-foot waterfall, and they have built a deck on the side of the building. So everyone that gets their apples and cider go on the deck and they eat their cider and look at the beautiful waterfall. And it's just so pretty. But it's the building itself with the old wood is just so charming and like has so much character, and you have to take a picture of it. Everyone does when you go there. And so this customer wanted to take a photograph of it, and she was waiting and waiting because there's always so many people there, and she didn't want anyone in the picture. She just wanted a picture of the building. So she waited until no one was in front of it, and she took a picture. And then she went and got them developed.
Because this is back before digital cameras were a thing, and you actually had to wait for your
film to be developed. She had to go get her picture
developed.
So this was in the 90s, probably.
Or the 80s.
Well, this was
the 90s. Yeah, so it was the 90s.
Cindy owned it then, so it had to been the 90s. But she said she knew there was no one there when she took the picture. But she said when she developed the picture, standing by the sorting room door, was a man. Wearing things you expect a sailor of some sort to wear. Rubber high boots.
Or like leather.
Leather boots. Yeah, probably leather boots most of the time. Had a full beard. Standing with his arms crossed. And he was completely blurry, but everything else in the picture was perfectly clear. Now, I do photography. For something to be in the foreground or background to be blurry and everything and other things clear makes sense. But if it's all in the same plane.
And especially if his arms were crossed, that implies that he was standing still.
Yeah. So it's hard for that to be like, she basically captured John Burr, like hanging out outside, probably smoking a cigar, which they smell cigar a lot in there. And there was a story that Cindy told that right after she bought it, it was in kind of rough shape. So there was one room that had a lot of the electric panels on it, and she said that it was just grimy looking. So she wanted
cobwebs.
Cobwebs. So she literally washed the whole wall down, washed everything, and wanted to paint it white just to brighten it up in there. So she just got done painting, and she called someone over to say, "Hey, look at it! Like it looks so much different in here." And they walked in, and the other person said, "What's that?" And she went over and looked, and there was a half-smoked cigar covered in cobwebs sitting on top of the electrical box. No one had been in there. She went and got someone, brought it back in, and this cigar appeared. Which they smelt the smell of cigar a lot, and people say they smell cigar all the time. They
kept it. It's in a jar on the wall, and like
they have a bunch of the old cider jugs, the glass ones, and they slid the cigar in the glass jug, which was cool. I bet that's what Burr was doing, standing outside smoking his cigar.
And of course, I mean, they named a freaking town after him, so it's gonna be. He's gonna hang around.
He's gonna hang around
for sure.
And then when the local TV crew came to do that segment on haunted places, one of the cameramen said it was his birthday that day, and he jokingly said out loud, "All right, it's my birthday. I want to see something special," like calling out to the ghosts because they heard the place was haunted. and he was interviewing Tina, and he didn't notice it while it was happening until he went to edit it, and there is a door behind her that slowly opens up. It was completely shut, slowly opens up in a very deliberate way, he said. And I guess it's on, couldn't find the actual segment with it in it, which I looked. I probably need to look harder because that would be cool to watch. Then it closes very slowly. Now, you can't say that's wind doing it when something,
right.
You know what I mean? Okay, open or shut, but it's not open, then shut. There was no one there around it.
That's kind of like what happened with me with the door.
Yeah. And you had that so it just kind of proves that this is stuff that happens there. And like I said, he didn't notice it at the time because he was interviewing her, so he was doing the interview. And then he didn't notice it until the playback, so that was cool. And then another thing I read, that apparently Cindy's cousins all heard about, or Cindy's family heard about the haunting stuff after the news segment went out, and they were calling her I want to tour, I want to come and see it. So her one cousin came, and she had very long hair, and they took her upstairs, look around, and she said she felt something playing with her long hair. And she turned around, and no one was behind her at all.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
And then she went down into the store, and she felt like someone stepped on her foot. And then she could hear someone saying, her name is Laura, I think, saying, Laura.
Nope.
Yep.
I'm good. Goodbye.
And 2 to 3 times. And she said something, and her husband was like, I didn't hear anything. And her husband was taking pics while they were there, and every picture with her in it, she was blurry.
That's just, no.
So there was a ghost just kind of liked her, apparently.
Oh, I know, but I know it's they're not hurting you, but it's still creepy.
I know. So those are some of the things I found online. And I'm sure there's been so many occurrences there that Cindy could probably tell you a different story every time you talk to her about it.
Right.
And I would love to just interview every person that worked there to see what they've experienced. Because you could, when I was reading something that someone had wrote about it or did a thing about it, was oh, they're in that Haunted Places of New York book.
Oh, yeah.
That woman wrote that. She wrote two Northern New York ones, and Burrville Cider Mill was in both because she had to update it because she said I could write a whole book alone just on the cider mill, the amount of things that have happened there when it comes to spiritual and supernatural stuff.
Cool. It's just cool that it's where we live too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If nice. You, like we said, if you travel through, you have to stop there, and get yourself cider and a donut and experience it because it's
even
just,
without the hauntings. You need to go there. It's just.
But when you have the hauntings and you can go, because I've been there billions. I mean, I've been there billions of times. I didn't work there. I wasn't there for extended periods of time. I've never saw anyone or seen anything until we went and we were talking about it. And we thinking it's Homer. He was like, "Hey, dude," or it could have been John,
or it could have been a little boy, Roger.
It could have been Roger being like, "I'm here," but we said Homer because it just was the first thing.
I think he's the one who's. It feels for me. It's I think it was Homer.
Yeah,
this is his domain.
Yeah, and and it was right near where the pressing room was. It
was right in between.
Yeah,
where they drug the ciders.
Where he would be.
Yeah, I think
hanging out probably.
It's a wonderful, wonderful establishment. The family that runs it is just wonderful or great. You need to go and check them out. They're usually, obviously they're working with a natural product, so you can really only make cider while there's fresh apples.
Yeah, so they start in mid-August to Thanksgiving.
I think they sometimes might open a little early now because they sell so much stuff there. They have a lot of locally made stuff. They have jarred salsas and things like that. Stuff
Jams.
That they make. They have one of the all of the kids are all talented. And they have jewelry there made by one. There's metalwork really cool. Is so, I think Brooke does the metalwork. She's an amazing job. So talented. One of them has an apiary. They have bees, so you can go and get honey that's local honey. It's just amazing. Beeswax products. So many awesome things. And you can just go there and know that when you buy something, it's supporting a family. And it's not just supporting a corporation, it's supporting a family.
And the money's staying here locally.
Which I love that.
And you're eating locally sourced stuff, which is better than anything else.
And they usually stay open to about Thanksgiving. I think sometimes they make it to Thanksgiving and sometimes they don't, depending
on how much they got.
Right. So try to get there.
Yeah, because
Get
Cindy
some delicious cider.
says she sells 30 to 40,000 gallons